All right, guys, I'm coming to you today with a good news story, and that, of course, is the resignation of Victoria's Chief Health Officer, Brett Sutton. Brett, I don't want to say thank you for your service, but I definitely want to say good riddance. Now, earlier today, I responded to this by writing, Brett Sutton has resigned as a Victorian CHO, bringing an end to his controversial pandemic-era reign that some argue saw Victorian businesses and lives destroyed. Under his advice and watch, the population was coerced into a vaccine program to keep their jobs and basic freedoms. We have since learned much of the coercion was predicated on flawed modelling and data, with many Victorians still suffering as a result of the decisions. He will be joining the CSIRO. Never forget. And that's right. We should never forget the faces of these people that made these decisions during that time. Not because they made the right or wrong decision under very difficult circumstances sometimes. The fact is that none of these people have accounted for their decision, shown their willingness to participate in transparent programs to actually understand the reason that they made these decisions, or shown any remorse for the decisions that they made, which destroyed many lives and businesses. Well, he's going to be joining the CSIRO, who are delighted to share that Professor Brett Sutton has been appointed our new Director of Health and Biosecurity. Brett joins us from his current role as a Victorian CHO, where he has provided expert advice on the health and well-being of Victorians. Yes, the health and well-being of Victorians, which involved locking them for hours and hours on end in their homes, allowing them to come out for an hour if they were lucky into a 5-kilometer radius, and of course, also locking children from their schools and disallowing them from accessing things like playgrounds. Thank you, Brett, for looking after our well-being. But how is the rest of the world responding and dealing with Brett Sutton's departure? So I've got a few different views here to share with you. But actually, on the CSIRO, before I jump to that, interestingly, the CSIRO and several Australian universities have engaged in at least 10 joint projects with the Wuhan Institute of Virology in the past decade. A laboratory US intelligence has linked to the Chinese military and which is suspected of being at the center of the COVID-19 outbreak. So life comes full circle, and now Brett Sutton is the Professor Brett Sutton, is the Director of Health and Biosecurity at the CSIRO. What a wonderful circle. Anyway, so Samantha Rutnam, the leader of the Greens in Victoria, who also herself participated in actually giving consent and the ability for Daniel Andrews to enact some of his most draconian laws that restricted the freedoms of Victorians. She has a message for Brett because she's very sad now. Thank you, Brett Sutton, for your leadership and care as Victoria's CHO. Your intellect and compassion guided our state through some of its toughest times, and we are grateful for your service. Different response here from Primod. Brett Sutton has resigned as Victoria's Chief Health Officer. He will be remembered for destroying countless lives and businesses. I always wondered why Brett Sutton completely took off his top to get his vaccine shot. I mean, almost each time he was showing off his body and his tattoos, and that was kind of the story. This sex symbol Brett Sutton topless getting his vaccine shots. Very, very strange. Anyway, let's have a look at another response. This is from the Queer Revolution. A big thank you to Brett Sutton and his team who worked tirelessly to save the lives of Victorians during an unprecedented global pandemic. And of course, we have an image of Brett Sutton covered in fire, this heroic image of Brett, the savior of Victoria. Mate, when I think about what these people did, do you think it's a heroic, brave chief health officer that just locks people in their homes to get results? Right? Do you think that's the truth? There's plenty of health officers all around the world that took a different path, but people view what he did as heroic and brave. Up to them. David Colbert writes, Brett Sutton thought he could beat COVID, chase zero at all costs, shut business, locked people in homes, and kept kids from school, and then celebrated his personal victory. Chasing donuts has proven to be the greatest health policy failure in history. That's his legacy. And that's the truth. Brett Sutton did chase zero. There were times, I think there was one time where he said under his watch, Victoria would never again be over 300 cases of COVID. Complete nonsense and ridiculous. And the cost of doing things like that was the cost on Victorian businesses and Victorian lives. And today, if you look at the results of what the pandemic has, come to today, right? Still tens of thousands of cases, still people going to hospital. Apparently the highest vaccine rate in the country or in the world, whatever, in Victoria at one point. We're still there. All right. So that's why we got to look at it through. But Brett Sutton, even though he's resigned, he's not the only one to resign. There are so many people, so many leaders around the world resigning, right? They're resigning like they're dropping like anything. I don't know if you remember, of course, very famously, our friend across the dish, Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, the Prime Minister, Dame Jacinda Ardern. I should be careful now to use the correct, is it a pronoun? I don't know, but she's Dame Jacinda Ardern now. She resigned as the Prime Minister of New Zealand, saying that no longer had enough in the tank to do the job. Mark McGowan, Premier of Western Australia, also resigned, saying that he's exhausted. Yes, Mark. Terrorizing the public with your draconian nonsense during COVID must have been very, very exhausting for you indeed. Of course, Anthony Fauci, I'm not going to go into Fauci. There's lots of commentary on Anthony Fauci, but of course, he also stepped down or resigned. So that's Fauci. I'm not going to go into there. There's plenty of stuff you can look on this shady bloke. This one here, Greg Hunt announces his resignation from policy. So Greg Hunt was the Australian, the federal health minister, and of course he resigned as well. Greg Hunt famously, of course, told us very early on that we were about to partake in the world's largest clinical trial. And I wonder how that clinical trial is going, Greg. I wonder how it's going. Walensky resigns as CDC director. So this is the CDC in the United States of America. She resigned as well, and she said when she resigned, "We made this world a safer place." That's her quote from her. So, one more. I almost forgot. Michael Gunner from the minister in Northern Territory. He also resigned very soon after a lot of the lockdowns ended and things started to open up again. He left. So we have to ask ourselves, why are these people running away, or why are these people resigning? Like all of a sudden, there's this, all the people that were a part of the COVID era in terms of their roles, whether it's in government or sometimes even in these pharmaceutical companies, a lot of them are resigning now and going off to different jobs or going off into the sunset. And it's very hard to really put my finger on why this is happening, but it's happening across the board. I mean, maybe you guys have some answers that you could potentially help me with in researching this subject, but there is a lot of these people who are involved in these decisions that now we're seeing that a lot of these decisions actually may have caused harm to society, may have damaged society in some manner or form, and a lot of it was actually based on inferior modeling or science or things that were, a part of paid research by certain pharmaceutical companies, all sorts of things like this. So I can't quite put my finger on it, but these people all seem to be leaving their jobs. And, a lot of them, like Brett Sutton, are lucky they're being parachuted into other jobs in the same field and same industry, almost like it's a reward. Anyway, guys, can you tell me your favorite Brett Sutton moment if you have one? I would love to know. But if more than that, if you could help me figure out why these people are all of a sudden resigning, that would be even better. Thank you again, guys, for watching my videos. If you enjoy my content, you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Odyssey, and Rumble at The Real Rukshan. See you all next time.